Hello again, everyone. Welcome to 90s to Now. I am Jerry Strauss, as always. And as always, we're getting ready to talk to one of our absolute favorite people that we met back in the 90s. We've been watching and enjoying everything he's doing ever since. He is sitcom royalty. He's part of one of the most famous TV families. You have to agree, really, of all time. He's a Bundy. He's Bud. He's the guy you know. He's the guy you love. David Faustino is here. How are you, man?
You caught me mid-sip. I'm good. How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm drinking too. Seltzer, though. We're having the lamest party ever here.
Yeah, I've got a protein shake myself, so it's not that very exciting.
Oh, my goodness. Well, look, it's exciting to talk to you, man. There's been a lot of ground we've covered here on 90s to Now, but we have yet to officially speak to a Bundy. So, Married with Children, uncharted territory for us.
I broke the 90s to Now. I broke the Married with Children virginity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to ask you right off the bat. Look, this conversation is going to be just filled with the questions that you guys all sent in. We announced this just a few days ago, and you flooded us with questions that you want Mr. Faustino to address, to answer. So we're going to try to get through as many as we can. I want to ask you right off the bat, and this is coming off of Ziploc 007, who asked, how often are you called Bud to this day? I want to make it even broader. How big of a part of your life in 2024 and beyond is being Bud Bundy? Does that still follow you kind of everywhere you go?
I mean, yeah, pretty much. It's funny because I call people Bud all the time, so I never know if people are calling me Bud, like Bud Bundy, or Bud. I call my son Bud. I catch me calling him that. Yeah, I mean, people definitely still, it's one of those characters that, people, it was like a non-threatening, lovable character that people tend to like, especially like, guys could relate to him a lot because they had problems picking up girls or, things like that. And I think he was like kind of a hero to a lot of men, younger men, especially. So it's been really cool because I'm accepted in a lot of groups, that just want to, hang out with Bud Bundy. And I mean, to this day, I have tour buses that come by my house. I've engaged with them a few times, so now they really come. But I wish I hadn't sometimes. But and it's cool because they're always that Bud Bundy this, Bud Bundy that. And it's cool because the tourists get a little, they get a little kind of hit for them. But it was a great opportunity. And it's kind of like the little show that keeps going. It's amazing how many young people still sometimes are turned on to it, either on reruns or on streaming or whatever, and it's got a really wide audience, especially in prisons.
Really?
Yeah, it was a big show in prison. It was like the number 1 rated show for a long time there.
I feel like Christina Applegate may be a big part of that.
Possibly.
Just a guess.
Also, I mean, I think a lot of they could relate to some of the humor and the constant dissing and
you know what though, and it's interesting because you watch it with different eyes. I think as you progress through life. I remember living through the 90s and just thinking, it's almost like a satire on the family comedy, right? Like it was so out there and it went so much further as far as just kind of, I mean, on the surface, it almost feels like every character's mean, right? Like everybody hates each other, like the family hates each other. But when you watch it through different eyes over time, you realize that like in the end, the show kind of had the same qualities as those other comfortable family sitcoms that we go back and watch again and again over the years, because it was still a family show and the family still had each other's back in the end. It wasn't really part of the humor, but it was always sort of that undercurrent. It was always a family thing.
And I think no episode speaks to, I mean, there's a few episodes that speak to that, but especially the one, and I don't know the title of the episode, but I think we were going away for Labor Day and it was like a, big Labor Day weekend. And we end up just getting stuck on the freeway for like 2 days. And we're like fighting with each other and talking all kinds of smack to each other. And then this family next to us pulls up and they have some word. The dad has some words with Al, and we all end up getting out and like just going at it with this family and scrapping on the freeway. And so it's like there you have it. It's like we were vultures to each other, and then the next beat we're literally fighting for our lives for each other. So.
Right. We don't mess with my family. Only we can mess with each other.
Precisely.
Yeah, totally relate. Something, it's totally endearing, really.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was really a word that was used in a lot of the the reviews and from the critics back in the day, but it's an endearing show, man.
Yeah.
Look, if you're ready, I want to dive into some of these questions because, like I said, we're flooded, and let's see what people want to know. Wolves and Tigers 45 sent in a question. I'd like to ask him what it was like growing up in front of the camera, seeing all those awkward phases documented. I mean, your whole life in the most awkward time of your life, those teenage years, every year for the majority of the year, you're on TV once a week. Like, how crazy is that? How did that feel? And how did it feel kind of in the years afterwards, going back and seeing yourself?
Well, at the time, it was really weird because you're in the awkward stage and you are awkward. I mean, you're an awkward teenager. I had like I'd say like a 3-year period in there, where I really just hated being recognized. I was a really insecure sort of, I had acne and all that crap. And plus they poke fun of it on the show with Christina's character. So I had about a 3-year kind of streak where I just I just really hated it. I enjoyed being on set. I enjoyed making money. I enjoyed working. I loved the cast and everybody involved. I hated the fame part of it, and watching it was always awkward, but then I just grew out. Like when I hit about 18, 19, I just grew out of it. And where I would sort of be kind of defensive when people recognized me before, I just started realizing, oh, people are just trying to give me love. They're not trying to when they call me Bud, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that they are disrespecting me. There's a character that they like. Right. And I kind of just surrendered to that. And once I did, I was able to actually enjoy fame because there are a lot of enjoyable aspects to it, Yeah. And I think a lot of celebrities or actors or whatever have a really hard time with the fame part. But I got a lot of practice early on, and I learned to surrender to it and embrace it. And looking back on watching myself, I mean, it's always funny to see me with a mullet and see me when I had acne or before I started working out and all those things. It doesn't bother me. It's just oh, there's that phase. Oh, there's that phase. And that's just kind of how I look at it.
Nice. Yeah. Lori, 1985. What was it like starting out on such a new network like Fox? Now, this was uncharted territory for you guys. And she wants to know, was it scary not knowing if you were going to be canceled that first season? Did it feel like that? Did it feel like the whole future of the network was sort of tenuous from season to season? It was all a big experiment.
It really was an experiment. I had, I started acting when I was a baby, and continued to act all the way up and through Married with Children. But I had never landed a series. I had done plenty of guest spots. Well, I had done a 6-episode series, but nothing that really lasted. And I don't know, for some reason, even at that young age of 12, I had this deep desire to be on a series. It was just something I wanted to do really bad. Yeah. And so when I got Married with Children, it was yeah, really exciting. And I was oh, but we're not really on a network. It was kind of like a letdown, No one knew what this Fox network was. It was only in 80-some% of American households. Yeah. And some of those that it was on, it was way up on the cable station. And, you'd see it in the show because we used to poke fun of it ourselves. The writers would anyway, about, trying to get the rabbit ears up to watch Fox and, that whole thing. Yeah. Right. And so, but again, I was pretty young, so I don't think I really understood the gravity of the whole thing, and sort of the network really riding on Us, the Tracy Ullman Show, and 21 Jump Street. That was the 3 sort of shows that premiered at on those nights, and they played them back to back 3 times because they had nothing else to play. So, but at the same time, we got all the attention of the network, and they had, because they had a lot riding on us. They really tried to pour everything that they could scrounge up at us, and it was kind of like a family, and I think that's what lent to the longevity of the show.
Let's go on to the next question. Menasaur36 asks if you still talk to David Garrison or Ted McGinley, and which episodes did you like better, the Jefferson or Steve episodes? I feel like that's a very divisive thing to ask a Married with Children fan. It's got to be Team Steve or Team Jefferson.
That's funny. I don't talk to Garrison much anymore. We still, if I go to New York, I may look him up. He's still, kind of doing the Broadway circuit, and he's very successful on stage there, and had been before Married with Children, and then afterwards. And Ted is just the greatest, nicest guy in the whole world. He's had a nice little comeback recently on some shows. I know he's on a show on Apple and some other things, so he's done really well over the last few years. But Ted's like the greatest guy in the world. I mean, it's hard to call it on the episodes. I mean, David Garrison was one of my favorite episodes, was where they grew the beard. He grew a beard because he didn't want to go home to Marcy or some. Oh no, he grew a beard, and then Marcy didn't want him home. Or they got into a big fight about it, and then he started cooking for Al. And Al was like, first he wanted him out of the house. He couldn't stand him there, but as soon as he started cooking for him, it was like, oh my God, you can't shave that thing. You got to keep that thing. It's a really funny episode. So, in that sense, that was one. But Ted did a lot more episodes. So there's just some, rewatching him. Ted is very funny in a lot of them. So tough call.
Yeah. They were different. I like the fact that it was such a great decision to bring in Ted to play a character that was totally different than Steve, as opposed to trying to just replace him.
Yeah, exactly. I thought so too. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to replace a character,
Second part of the question, notwithstanding those two, just in general, what was your favorite episode of Married with Children, and why? That's a big question.
Wow. I have a couple favorites. They're all three of them. There's one from the first season. The last episode of the first season is called Johnny Be Good. I was trying to get to a hamburger joint that's closing, called Johnny Be Good. It probably not that many people remember this episode. It's like, again, it was the first season, no one was watching yet. So unless they caught it in reruns, which is very likely. But in that episode, it's done in real time. So it's all the clock counting down to this thing, and he can't get out of the house due to just all this crap that's going down. It's just a really funny episode, and Ed and I have this great banter in it that I really enjoyed. But my favorite all-time episode, I think, is the Christmas episode where Santa Claus is supposed to parachute down into Al's mall to surprise all the families in the Lakeside Mall. And Al is just like really angry and doesn't want to go to work that day, and ends up like staying home. And we all end up watching it on the TV. It actually, David Garrison was in this episode. And we're waiting, and you hear the announcer, and we're waiting. And, Santa's chute doesn't seem to be opening, and then the next thing you hear is the breaking of branches and trees, and boom, and he ends up dead in the backyard. The next thing, we're trying to have our Christmas dinner, and the coroner's taking the body out. And, Marcy says something like, you ghouls, look at you. And Al says, what do you want us to do, Marcy? Stop eating? That just made me laugh. But what was really funny about the episode is they used a real weighted life-size dummy, the real weight of a full-grown man.
Yeah.
Had it up on these hooks, and when they would drop that thing, we cracked up every single time, including the one that went to air. If you watch it to this day, you see us turn around, and Ed, who's like one of the greatest actors of all time, comes from the theater, knows not to look at the camera. You see him just for a split second glance up to see if that camera catches him smirking, you know. But we could never keep a straight face, and it was just a really funny episode.
That's awesome. That's
I also
amazing.
like the episodes with Sam Kinison, which were also Christmas episodes.
Yeah, yeah. You guys really stuck the landing with those Christmas episodes every
Yeah, they
time
were
you.
fun. They were fun.
Yeah. You talked about Ed O'Neill. Are you there? Would like to know, is Ed O'Neill the coolest person on earth?
You know, Ed's one of my greatest friends to this day. He's like a combo father / really good friend. Him and I were always hanging out a lot. You know, he would take me to the fights all the time. We'd go to the forum boxing night here in LA. Like almost once a week, we would go to these things, and the crowds would go crazy when we walked in. I mean, I didn't know what to expect, and we walked in. I heard the whole place start screaming. I thought it was for one of the boxers. Lo and behold, it was for Ed and I. You know? But again, that was our fan base, was those kind of folks. You know, people who go to the fights and stuff, and you know, and we would go to lunch. We'd always get in trouble because we'd come back 15 minutes late every single time we left for lunch. We'd get, you know, the stares of the rest of the cast. But, you know, and to this day, we talk, you know, we're very, very much in contact. We go to lunch, we go to dinner. We're on a text thread. I'm on a text thread with the whole cast, actually. And we just were speaking like a week ago. So we're all very still close. And Ed's like the greatest guy.
Cool. Cool. XXB4XX. Here's a good one. Your favorite model ever to appear on the show? You guys definitely had sort of that revolving door, that conveyor belt of beautiful women that was part of the show, part of the deal. Anybody stick out in particular to you?
I mean, you know, it's funny because I'm not one of those guys who like knows a lot of models' names and stuff. It's just never been my thing. But I mean, the two that like sort of stick out are Pamela Anderson. I don't know if she was a model. I guess she was, right? First,
Yeah, she was doing. I mean, she was in Playboy, so
she kind of got her start there. I mean, she wasn't a star yet, and she was in an episode where Al is having a dream, a fantasy sequence, and these two beautiful women are wrestling on the bed, and she's one of the beautiful women in that, and she was very much recognized from that show, and went on to do a lot of other things. And then the other one was Mila Jovovich, who played a foreign exchange student that Bud had a horrific crush on. And Mila and I, we became really close during the episode. And then, you know, to this day, if I see her, it's like, hey, you know, and so she was great. Those are the two that stand out the most for me.
Cool. Well, we're doing this podcast sort of thing right now, but as Mavita would like to know, has David ever considered hosting a podcast of the MWC show, sort of a rewatch podcast? It's all the craze these days. Is that on the radar at all?
I mean, that it's possible. I did a radio show for a long time, and I've really thought about, you know, starting up a podcast. Not sure exactly what the subject will be, but I mean, why not that one? It's not a bad idea. I know that there are several Mary Maturin podcasts out there, none done by the cast themselves, I don't believe. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely something I'd consider.
Cool. Otherwise fun, 4577. I noticed in the early seasons of the series, Bud had some pretty cool sneakers. Were they his own, or did the costume designer choose them for the character? Was that an intentional part of the look of Bud Bundy from the beginning?
Well, they weren't my own, but they became my own after the seasons.
You got them all?
What's that?
You got them all?
Yeah, I think I got all the shoes, because I mean, I'm not many men can fit in my size shoes. I mean, I'm a pretty small dude, but I ended up with a lot of those, and I had a lot of input into, you know, what the character would wear and stuff. But it wasn't like brain surgery. It was pretty easy. I mean, he's like this kind of guy who, you know, from the suburbs of Chicago, doesn't have a ton of money. So, you know, it was just kind of simple to choose the stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah. Also, same person wants to know, you mentioned several times that many embarrassing storylines from your own life were included in the series. Apparently this is, I guess, something you've mentioned in prior interviews. Could you give an example of any of those storylines, anything that happened to Bud that was actually pulled from your life?
I mean, the main one is really the whole Grandmaster B character, the whole, his whole what's the word I'm looking for? His pseudo character. It came because I started getting into hip hop way early on. Early on, like 86 or 87.
Oh, wow.
And that was before people had even really, before the mainstream had even thought about discovering hip hop. And I got into it way early on with underground hip hop. So I started having all these hip hop artists come to the set. I mean, from Eazy-E to Ice Cube to, all these people. And the writers were like, what's this guy into? And so they created the whole Grandmaster B character to sort of poke fun at me a little bit in my, I was running hip hop clubs and I was very much immersed in that whole world. And so as a sort of, as a joke, they started, they came up with the Grandmaster B character.
I think stories about that is your podcast right there. You just casually dropped the bomb that David Faustino back in the day on the Married with Children set was hanging out with NWA. Like these are stories that need to be told.
I took Ice Cube to the Arsenio Hall, the Arsenio Hall show back in like 88 maybe, and because he wanted to give Arsenio their tape, which was a cassette tape at the time.
Yeah.
It had just dropped, and not really, he wanted to show Arsenio it, and Arsenio wasn't like very receptive to him. You kind of gave him the cold shoulder a little bit. So in jest, I joke, and I have no idea if this is true. I've never asked him, but I joke that the line where he says, did they ask me if I liked Arsenio about as much as the bicentennial? I always take credit for that line because I remember him giving him and I remember Cube's reaction was like, huh, I thought he would be warmer to this,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But Eazy-E was a big fan of the show. I was a big fan of Eazy's. I have a tremendous shot of Eazy and I up on the wall that I happen to be wearing a Polk High shirt for, and it's me and Eazy, and it's just this great shot. And he was a staple at my hip hop club. He was there almost every week.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. Yeah. There's more to unpack there, but let's go on to Emax 4. Since I rarely see bloopers, what moments or scenes from the show do you remember breaking or laughing hardest at? Whether it was not being able to get through a scene or just whether it was a blooper or just the hilarity of the scene itself. You already talked about the Santa, but are there any others that come to mind?
Man, there's not too many that stick out. I mean, the Santa one definitely, because the show, what we thought was so funny. I mean, we had a lot of moments, especially Katie was most guilty of breaking. She laughed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, we didn't have too many. I never saw a blooper reel from our show ever. I'm sure I'm guessing one might exist somewhere. But I remember they used to have those shows, blooper shows, and I don't remember ever seeing an episode that we were in. So yeah, wish I had something better for you. I just don't.
Oh, that's cool. I'm going to throw a question in here because back in the day, I did interview Amanda Burse about. We talked about the show. We talked about one of the Christmas episodes of the show, actually. But I was really taken aback by how passionate she was in talking about the vibe and the atmosphere of the tapings and how that played into the show, almost like the audience being a character on the show, which you never really consciously think about. But I mean, just the cheering and the laughing, that takes up so much of the attention and the time from each episode of the show. It really is like a character. What was the atmosphere like? Like, what was going on during those tapings?
It was wild, man. It got wilder and wilder as it went on. In the beginning, it was just sort of like, you had to bus in people, I mean, you had to bus in these old people, that were completely offended by the nature of the show. And it was very difficult. But then season 3, and this is a side story, but when the woman Terry Ricolta of Michigan, who was a billionaire's wife, and I can't remember what he did, but she had come in and watched her children laughing at this this show, and she sat down and watched it with them, and she was completely appalled by it and was disgusted by the humor of the show. And she successfully had big advertisers pull from the show. That was the season 3. Wow. And including Coca-Cola, McDonald's. I mean, I'm talking like heavy hitters. And of course, it became a press story, and everybody heard about this ghastly show called Married with Children. And then, of course, it became a smash hit after that.
Right. There you go.
Exact opposite effect of what she wanted. And I remember 2 things. Hustler gave her A-hole of the month. Hustler magazine. And then the producers, who were always hilarious, they sent her a big giant thank you basket, you know.
That's
so that
beautiful.
was kind of funny. But, you know, after that, the audiences started really pouring in. And then it was like you couldn't get tickets. And that was really cool. I enjoyed the audience. It really did feed, like, if it was another character, it fed stuff that I would try things I'd never tried before in rehearsal, just based on sort of the energy of the audience. And in like, it's kind of like weird spiritual moment where you intuitively knew something was right. It was very weird. And then it started getting a little, toward the last 2 seasons, it started getting like out of hand. They weren't even listening anymore. First of all, they were drinking heavily. Like, they'd bring people in that were just wasted, you know? And Ed started getting a little kind of irritated by it, because it was more, it sort of became just like a caricature of itself. It just became a little over the top. Yeah. What did Amanda think about the audience? Did she like the audience or not enjoy the audience? Sorry, why?
Yeah, no, she was the one, to my recollection, and we're going to try and bring that interview. That was from a prior outlet, but we'll try to bring it as an archived classic interview for you guys to check out here on 90s to Now. But she really kind of dove into that area of things, of how that atmosphere created by the people who came in to see the show taped, it just enhanced everything. And
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So I was always curious, because we love to dive into the sitcom world for those of us who've never been to a sitcom taping. And like, for instance, we've talked about Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and they've talked about how they made it like a party and there was a DJ, and they'd use, like, that was one angle they used to keep the crowd really lively. So I was just curious what your secret sauce was. And I think, if I'm hearing you right, I think it sounds like the big secret sauce was just, these were the fans who love the show and the characters.
We had a couple of really great warm-up guys. One in particular, and I can't remember his name right now, but he's gone on to like be like a staff writer on like several sitcoms and has done really well. I wish I could remember his name right now, but he was hilarious, you know, and I would enjoy watching him. And if we had like a really slow episode that wasn't going well or whatever, and we had to do it, I remember a couple of times where like we'd go, okay, it's time to, go back to the scene, and you'd hear the audience go, oh, because they were having so much fun with this guy. Yeah. So he was great. But yeah, I mean, it really was, the show itself. Another thing people ask me is there's a particular laugh that you hear over several seasons of the show. There's one one individual person, and people always ask, was that just like some like rabid fan that was there every week? And no, the answer is it was Ron Levitt, the creator Ron Levitt's wife. And she had this really distinct laugh, and you can hear it. She was always close, closer to us, so you could really pick up on it. Mm-hmm. And it was very funny.
Sitcoms that can produce that really authentic sound, because it's authentic laughter. It's easy to tell. And it's easy to tell when the crowd's actually there and loving it, and it makes it fun to watch.
It's much different than canned laughter.
Definitely. Definitely. 2 great questions from Celebration Low 4614. Number one, a lot of people have been talking about this over the last year or two. What is the status of the rumored animated reboot of the show?
That's a really good question. They tried to get off a regular spinoff with all of the cast, and everybody was interested in doing it. It was actually based around my character, and Ed and Christina and Katie characters were sort of recurring characters around it.
Mhm.
But Ron Levitt's son, Matt Levitt, I won't go into too much detail, but God bless him. He had an issue with it based on, I'm not sure what, a lot of things. And so it got shelved because of that, because he has the final say on a lot of things. And then to sort of, I guess, skirt around him, they decided to do an animated version, which everybody signed on to do regular parts on, including Ed and Katie and myself, Christina. But I think they've had, in the climate that it is right now, after post COVID, post these strikes and everything that's gone on, it's been a really tough market to sell something that's as expensive as a Married with Children reboot. Being that it's animated, it's very expensive when they look at it and go, wait a minute, this is a cartoon. How come it's costing us X amount of dollars? So until things get straightened out and they're starting to be able to afford things like that or want to kind of spend that kind of money, I don't know that it'll ever see the light of day. We'll see.
Gotcha.
Seen.
No. We're talking about I guess potential greatness in the Married with Children universe not being realized. So the second question: did the MWC's powers that be ever reveal a potential plot for a planned finale? You guys never really had that proper blowout series finale episode. Was there any idea for that in the can, and what would that have looked like?
I wish I knew the answer to that. I mean, I've heard rumors of the house blowing up and all this kind of weird, crazy stuff. But again, because they didn't give them because it came as a surprise, and they didn't really give them any fair warning that the show was going to end. And what really stinks is, I mean, we all got paid to do the show. We got paid good money and we had fun doing it. I mean, it really was a travesty for us as well that we didn't get to do a proper send off. But really, and I mean this, it sounds cliche, but really for the fans, it really, really, really blows that, like, they invested many, many, many years into this show. Yeah. And then the network tried to bill it as the final episode, and it was far from a final episode. It was just a regular episode, and not a very good one at that. And I just really feel bad for the fans that they didn't give them that. It really, really, I think, really stinks.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed that at some point maybe this animated version will continue the story.
Stranger things have happened. We will see.
Absolutely.
I read the script for it. I mean, it's a funny script, the animated pilot. So it's even more raw than our show was, though. I mean, it's definitely not for kids.
And it's one of those things now where so many more, your fan base has grown so much as new fans continue to watch and binge it over the years. Now there's this much larger pool of people who are just chomping at the bit for it. So
yeah, you never know, man. I hope they can get it together and make it happen. It would be a lot of fun, and I think it would be great for the fans.
Mm-hmm. We'll knock out a few more here. Shift to your music real quick. We got a fan. I told you on Spotify when. Very succinct question.
That's funny.
Yeah, I guess has there been talk of your stuff hitting streaming in a bigger way, or what's?
I don't know. I kind of put the mic down, so to speak. I created a different character like a few years back called Little Guide because of my Italian heritage, and I just was kind of poking fun. It's kind of a comedic character, like an alter ego, so to speak. And I think there's a few songs on iTunes now under that title, Lilgweed. But as far as the I Told You song, people seem to really, I don't know, they liked that song. I don't know, but I've kind of gotten into hip hop in different ways, working with other artists and DJing because I have such a love for hip hop, still. And the way I've been able to express that is through, spinning records and getting to listen to the music I love while also having fun spinning it and doing jobs. And So it's been cool to be able to sort of stay in the scene that way. I got to open for Method Man a little while back in Vegas at the Mandalay Bay. I got to open for Akon and, DJ several parties. And so I was able to, like I said, express my love for it in that fashion. I decided to put the mic down because there's a lot of MCs that are better than me, and I let them have the arena.
Well, look, you're plenty busy, not just doing that, but you've entered this whole new world. Even talking about an animated Married with Children, but you are a veteran now of the voiceover game. I mean, you're all over the place with that. How did that start for you? Because that seems like a great avenue to take for anyone who has the opportunity, right?
I mean, yeah, I got into it early on. I got into it about, I want to say almost 20 years ago. And it was a lot easier to get in at that point. And, having already a name obviously helps you, book jobs and things like that. But I just started I enjoyed it. It's something you can do in your pajamas, really, if you want. It doesn't matter what you look like or what, So I started getting into it early on. And because I established a career already in it, now it's almost impossible to get into, man, especially, post-COVID. During COVID, everybody wanted to get in, including big stars and things like that weren't able to do any work. And during the strike too. I was lucky enough to establish myself in that world and have still do, pretty well in it. It's a great gig if you can get it. And again, it's very difficult to get into.
What are some of the projects that you've done that people might not have realized? Like, hey, that's David Faustino. Like, what are the big ones?
Well, it'll be funny because I'll be at some of these like cons, these conventions.
Yeah.
And I have a sign and it has, Married with Children and some of the other credits. And then it has like a few of my voiceover things, like in particular, Legend of Korra, which was a show on Nickelodeon, but really kind of blew up into this other thing. It's anime. It's got a huge, huge fan base. And I play this regular character on it called Mako, who's a firebender. And it's really based on the Avatar series. So they did Avatar, which was all the movie, everything came from the cartoon on Nickelodeon that Mike and Brian created. And so I played Mako, this firebender, and I'll have all these like fangirls and all these people come like, you're Mako, Bud Bundy is Mako. And so it's kind of cool because their parents will come to get Bud Bundy's autograph and they'll be there to get, Mako's.
Right. Yeah. We had
I do a shoot off of the How to Train Your Dragon series on it's on Netflix as well. It's called Dragons Race to the Edge. Again, it's the How to Train Your Dragon series. I play a character on there called Dagger. It's one of my favorite characters I've ever played to this day. He's a lot of fun. He's a bumbling bad guy, he's a bumbling idiot who thinks he's really scary. It's a lot of fun to play.
That's cool. Yeah. It's a whole new chapter for your career is an awesome thing. So, yeah. And
shameless plug. I do a show on, it's out on HBO. I don't know if we're getting picked up or not. We'll see. It's called Fired on Mars. It's an adult cartoon. It's got Luke Wilson. It's got a lot of stars, and I forget who's all in it right now. But it's got a really amazing cast, and it's a pretty funny show. So that's on HBO.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so you're doing stuff. You're all over the place. Outside of music, but even your voiceover work, it's like kid stuff, adult stuff. Like you're really like literally everywhere still. Plus, Married with Children, still ever present, still syndicated widely, all over streaming, still so popular. I got one final question for you, David. This is from Original Iron Dan, and I think this is a good way to kind of wrap up this conversation. Of course, we could go forever with you because you've got so many stories. But what would you say was the best thing that happened to you because of Married with Children?
Oh, man. Best thing that happened because of marriage. I would just say, I wish it was something more profound, but I would just say the experience of it in itself. Being able to have worldwide international fame, it blows my mind sometimes because I'll get people on social media from countries I've never even heard of that Married with Children is huge in. and that I wouldn't imagine people would know me from. So, I mean, the experience itself, doing it, was like a great experience. It wasn't one of those shows that has nightmare stories, and we all got along. We're still family to this day. It was a lovely set to grow up on. I mean, it had its faults, but it was a great set, and it was a tremendous experience. I laughed for 11 years straight, and then just the fame that came out of it, and being able to bring the gift of laughter to people is one of the greatest gifts you can, I think, have.
And you're still doing it, and we're still glad for it, and we can't wait to see what's happens next,
Me
of
too.
course. And look, out there, people, if you want that Married with Children animated revival, the reboot, whatever you may want to call it,
Send letters to all the streaming services, Netflix. I would say Adult Swim for sure. Send them letters, and Hulu. All those streaming services.
Yeah, let your voices be known. Hashtag the hell out of that crap. You know what to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for wanting that. I hope your voices are heard.
Yeah, absolutely. And David, awesome to talk to you. Awesome to catch up. Thank you for going with us through this whole journey of your career, your life, and sharing all those stories, man. So appreciate it. And yeah, thank you guys for checking us out here on 90s to Now. Make sure that you follow us, share us, do all the things you do to keep us growing, and see you next time. Thanks a lot, David.
All right, man.
All right, man. Thank you.